Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts. Do you read books? Do you watch films? Do you hate deodorant? Then welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
He's stuck out there. He thinks he's totally alone, and that we all gave up on him. What kind of effect does that have on a man's psychology? He turned back to Venkat. I wonder what he's thinking right now. Log entry, Soul 61. How come Aquaman can control whales? They're mammals. Makes no sense. Welcome back, faithful listeners, to another excellent edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. My name is Ryan Sean O'Reilly, and I'll be driving the helm of this terrible deep space journey into the cosmos. Joining me, as usual, is our resident jock/engineer, aka Tony Stark, Richard Mell.
Hey, what's going on? I appreciate the opening, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Just some kind of, it's an indication that all engineers are slightly insane. And I did dog ear that page, by the way, myself. So
good.
Just for that quote.
That was the second highest quote ranked in Goodreads from that book.
Wow.
Joining us also, as per usual, is the sardonic voice of reason, aka the pretty one, David Wilkinson.
Hi.
Dave, welcome back.
Hi, Mickey Mouse.
Okay. In this episode, we're going to be covering The Martian, written by Andy Weir, and The Martian film, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Matt Damon, among others. We also have another special treat on this episode. We have a guest, our friend Dan Gonzalez. Dan, welcome to the show.
Yo. Hey, thanks for having me. Do I have an AKA?
AKA, musician/artist extraordinaire.
I like that. that.
You work in the visual mediums now too, right? Visual mediums, and you do. I know you've been doing music for a while, but I know you got into visual stuff as well. Don't you do paintings and things?
Yeah, I like all the arts, all of the above. I don't discriminate.
Yeah, that's excellent. So Dan, for our audience sake, obviously I know you, and Rick and Wilk know you, but for the sake of our audience, can you introduce yourself in the sense that what's your relationship to science fiction, fantasy, horror, these kinds of things? Any books or movies that really stuck out to you during your life, or that that you're important to you?
Well, my relationship, and it's been off and on for the past 3 years. We really are in a bad spot.
So if you were on Facebook, you would say that your relationship it's complicated? It's
a complicated relationship. No, I mean, I've always been into science. Past couple of years, I've actually been into cosmology a lot. With Rosetta was pretty exciting, and Mars rover I thought was really cool. So I've always been into science, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But the first fantasy book I've ever read was Harry Potter.
Oh, those are quite the books to get into.
So I read that, and then I got into the Lord of the Rings stuff, and I've been I'm trying to start the Outlander series. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
Diana Gabaldon?
But, yeah.
If I'm not pronouncing that right, but okay.
Totally heard of that.
It's actually a new series that's coming out on TV, right? They were books,
actually,
but they're gonna be a TV series, I think, as well.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's a little bit of background on you. So Dan, I think as I told you before, the way we start the show, besides my witty remarks, is that we usually go around the horn and everyone just kind of gives some opening remarks to set up their comments for this evening's show. We'll start with Rick first.
Yeah, I guess the book wasn't as enjoyable as the movie just because I saw the movie first. There you go.
Okay, short and sweet. Rick, wow, you're really coming at us with these short comments now. Wilk, what do you got for us tonight?
I found the book to be a science fiction-esque Moby Dick technical masterpiece, and the movie was perhaps one of my favorite movies that I've seen in 10 years.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's coming. Wow. That's
a big deal.
Really interesting to explore that. Dan, Any just a real quick one sentence opening comments or thoughts to set up your, the show for yourself?
Well, I read the book first. I really liked the book. And, the book is always going to be better than the movie, and this was the case in this one. The movie I actually saw like almost a month ago, so I don't remember much deviation from the book itself, but I definitely like it. I have my qualms, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
Those. And for my opening salvo, I'll say 140 million leagues under the blackness of space, Jules Verne is reborn. This time with a sense of humor and irreverent references to pop culture.
Very dry sense.
So that's my take on all of this. So let's get right into it. This is a more recent book. This book, of course, was written by the author Andy Weir. And Rick, why don't you give us a little background on the author here, Mr. Weir?
Mr. Weir seems like a big white guy who likes to fiddle with computers. I think he's got a computer science career. He's into software, but he also is obviously very into space and technology. And I just don't know how the guy is able to kind of balance. Well, it's easy to balance that science and engineering with computer science, because as a computer scientist, you need to understand how those things work in order to make certain programs come alive like that. You have to kind of get into that research. No, I mean, you've got to know the nuts and bolts of the actual science in order to portray a realistic piece of software. So
what I was going to say to add on to that is that you're right. I think he does have a background in software engineering, and in one of the interviews, I think he got into like the software industry maybe during the .com era, and he actually worked for AOL until they got bought out, maybe or something buyout with Netscape, and he got laid off. And then I think that's when he decided to get more serious about his writing. I know that this book was actually his third book. He wrote two previous books, and one of them, the first one he wrote, he said was awful, and it was early on. Or it was early enough that he deleted it from all known drives, so no one will ever be able to find it. And his second attempt, he said, was also awful. And I think he said his mom has a copy of that one, but that he also did not release. And this was his third attempt, and obviously a very successful attempt. Do you know how this started with the background behind this book?
It was self-published.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, Wilk, why don't you get into that? I think.
Nobody would. I don't know how hard he tried, but he couldn't get it published, so he self-published on Amazon.
Well, let me stop you. Before that, what he was doing was releasing this in chapter installments on his website for free. He was just putting it up chapter by chapter and slowly garnering fans over time. And people were also giving him input on the science and stuff in there. So occasionally he would make changes if people gave him feedback. So it's almost like not a crowdsourced book, but he did get feedback from the internet. And it was getting more and more popular on his blog. And some people were approaching him on his blog and saying, you know what? It's great that you have your story for free. I've heard a lot about it. But can you just put it in an e-reader format, because that's easier for me to do? And so he did that. And then some people were saying, you know what, can you just put it on Kindle? Because I really like Kindle and I'd rather pay for it. So he had been offering it for free, and people actually told him to go put it on Amazon. And as you may know or may not know, is Amazon, you can't really release books for free because they, I think, sell their Kindles for a loss, so they expect to make money on their ebooks. You can only do it for free for special promotions. So he actually got requested to put this on Amazon, self-published it. He said he slapped a public domain photo of Mars on the cover and released it there, and he had to set it for 99 cents because that was the lowest price it could go. And it immediately started going up the charts and hit some top numbers. I don't know if Wilk, if you have anything to add to that.
No.
Okay, so then he got so popular that he was approached by a literary agent because he only released the ebook rights, but he didn't release the print rights. And a literary agent contacted him and said, "Do you want representation?" He said yes. And then I think once he signed up for that and he made a deal to release the print version of this book, within a week he said he had sold the movie rights. So it all kind of happened very fast for him. I think it was a couple years from his original release on his website, but when he got traction and notice, things really kind of took off for him. But just to add, I also saw that he was a big fan of science fiction. He liked Arthur C. Clarke and Asimov, and he also liked Heinlein, who we covered when we did Starship Troopers.
I know. It's a shame that we lost him. He was a great writer. He died before his time. I mean, oh well.
Who are you talking about?
Weir, the author. You said he liked all those people, so I assumed he was
Jules
dead.
Verne.
Oh no, I meant he likes. Thank you.
Okay.
Herman Melville.
He's a very good. He's contemporary. I mean, he's still around.
Yeah.
Ryan, I think you missed.
Don't murder the author, Ryan.
Dan, go ahead.
I think you missed an interesting part. Like, this is like a Cinderella story, rags to riches, but I think he made a good amount of money when he was working in the .com.
Yeah.
And I think he said that that allowed him to concentrate on writing for a while. And
yes,
I mean, most people don't have that luck, but obviously he had the talent, so he took the opportunity, and he's where he is.
Yeah, he got laid off, and he must have got like a severance package, and that allowed him just to take some time just to focus on writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, are you going to get a severance package anytime soon, Ryan?
I keep waiting. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything else to add about this author? He's a new author, so there's not a long history yet. I know he's working on his second book that's going to be a little bit more straight ahead.
He's going to write like a romantic drama, right?
I think it's going to be another sci-fi thing, but we'll have to see.
You got mail.
Yeah, you got mail on Mars.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Okay. If no one else has anything else to add about the author, we can just get right into the book. I know. Excuse me. Rick is going to be very excited for that. So, Will, why don't you give us just a quick synopsis of the book, what the plot of the book is, and I think the main character, his name is Mark Watney, so I'll go ahead and set that up for you, and just give us a quick summary of the book so we can kind of get into it.
Yeah, the book starts off with Mark Watney being stranded on Mars, saying, "I'm fucked," and he is by himself on an alien planet, the only human, abandoned by his space crew. And the book is about him surviving and solving problem after problem and getting off Mars, maybe. Spoiler, he gets off Mars. Yeah. But he immediately dies once he dies.
Matt Damon's characters never die.
Of
okay,
AIDS.
So
He got space AIDS on the moon of Mars. It's in the epilogue.
At least it wasn't space herpes, which was famously in the movies. Was it Ice Pirates?
Most people have space herpes. I think it's pretty common.
Does that movie Ice Pirates? You ever seen that? They have space herpes.
I actually own that movie.
Is Nicole Kidman in that movie?
I don't think so. I forget who is in that. Ron Perlman is in that.
Ice Pirates?
Yeah, is it Ice Pirates Ice Pirates? It's with Ron Perlman. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's it's like a little alien thing. It's almost like a tribble or something like that. And they're like, oh no, it's space herpes. All right. So now that we've covered all that,
quick question.
Yeah.
Are we working on the assumption that we can't give away the ending?
No, we don't have. We don't spoil things we're not covering. We spoil the books we're not covering. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, in the Hunger Games,
so that's an example of what I'll delete out of the show. At 15:47. Okay.
No, that had some comic value, right? You need that fucking thing.
I'm just saying.
So this book is written in again in an epistolary fashion, which Rick was just so abhorrently against after we were our last offer. It switches between log entries from the main character Mark Watney, which he is making.
I didn't have a problem with that. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, when we were covering Lovecraft, you felt things were real removed, but there's a similar device here where the main he's talking to the reader in a log.
Well, H.P. Lovecraft didn't have a device. He was just trying to write his best. And he sucked at it sometimes.
So how did you feel about it in this book? It's told partly from Watney.
No, it was great. I thought the writing of the way that he had mapped it out with the log entries by Mark Watney against all of the real-time scenarios that were happening in the upper echelons of NASA, all the way down to the lowest echelons, really. I thought it was a great juxtaposition of just good writing. And his dialogue was was phenomenal, I thought.
So I felt it does help that he does go back to Earth, and you see what's going on with Earth, and we have these other characters who are working to help him and figure out what's going on, and that makes it like less of a claustrophobic story. Did that work for you, Dan? Just the style, the way it was written, the format.
You know what? I didn't mind it. I'm sure at some point we'll hear the comparison between Castaway and this movie, like the lone actor centered type of drama. And there wasn't many cutaways for that film, and that was really good, very successful. I didn't mind it so much. I liked seeing the fact that this directly relates to, the other part, which is not his own struggle, but like what's going on Earth, because it's kind of like interrelated. Mm-hmm. Whatever happens there is going to affect, the media and how people respond.
Being out in space requires constant communication. If you guys ever seen, the moon landing, they are describing every fucking move that they make. As an astronaut,
if you believe the moon landing happened,
well, and it did.
Inside job.
It's totally real. You can't believe that it was fake because there's all the evidence in the world that it's totally real. But I mean, speaking of the communication that has to happen, that is almost the most important thing. The most important thing is being safe.
Safe sex.
And then the second most important thing is constant communication.
Constant. It sounds like a marriage counseling lesson. But constant communication.
No,
be safe.
When you think about it, though, there are similarities with marriage and being in outer space.
Go on.
I mean,
okay.
you are so
right into
alone
Rick,
as a man. I mean, you've got one woman to live with for the rest of your damn life, and your life is damned because it's the one woman, and you've got to basically perpetuate constant communication.
See, I thought you were going to say that you grow potatoes.
Does anyone else get uncomfortable when Rick talks about women?
What?
No, there are many similarities.
What I was going to say is that unlike Castaway, the plot line was interwoven with the world working towards helping one guy. So if you weren't to have the world, then you really wouldn't have the plot line that it was trying to develop. So I think it was almost kind of necessary for it to go back to what was going on.
If it didn't have that aspect, then it would have been
Dan's
garbage.
saying this movie really reinforced how much I dislike Castaway and how this is just. I think this movie was superior in every way to Castaway. But
what about the book? I mean,
the book I used Moby Dick in the beginning because I thought the book, like Moby Dick, had both a metaphorical sense and a technical sense. I didn't look at it as too much of a Jules Verne type thing like you brought up because I didn't think it was looking too far into the future. I think it was looking at what we have right now and telling a very technically accurate scientific novel and explaining things along the way, which I really liked. And I think I used a little bit of my imagination to think about the psychology of the main character because they didn't really get into that. And again, compared to Castaway, which is all about emotions. And
what do you mean they didn't get into that? I mean, they got well into that.
Into what?
No, I agree with Will. I don't think they did get into that.
Get into what? Get into what?
Not deep.
You're on you're by yourself on another planet.
Wait, hold on, guys. You three of you talk. Dan, get into what?
No, it's okay.
Well,
it's okay.
No, this is actually one of the big qualms I have. That's why I wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
You're alone on Mars. You have no idea whether you're going to ever get back. You have no food or water beyond 30 days.
Okay.
And he has no depression. He has no fear. He has no stress. It's always like, okay, well, I'm on Mars. Let me start working on stuff. And I felt like it needed a little bit of the up and down and emotions that one would go if you're alone on Mars. And it didn't have that. And I felt that was a big...
You're talking about internally.
First of all,
the character's internal processes. Okay, now hold on, Rick. Wilk, you had kind of mentioned something like this to me offline. Wilk, did you feel the same way? Because I thought you had said something to me offline
I did, but I actually think it was a strength. I thought it was an intentional omission where you had to kind of imagine what the guy was going through, and I kept thinking how I'd feel there. I mean, it was such an obvious lack of depth into what he was thinking, and like the obvious loneliness, suicidal thoughts, hopelessness, despair. I mean, a different author could have made a whole book about no science and all emotion here. Like, imagine Stephen King writing this book.
I wonder if he purposely did not want to have like that kind of depressing kind of, or just like self-introspective thoughts. Now, but Rick, you seem to be wanting to jump in on this. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So you don't get a whole lot of emotion because the guy is up against the damn wall. He has to think himself out of every bit of trouble he gets himself into, and he's got to be competent in doing so. So, okay, so he's not going to sit down and start, moping about things or, remembering something that happened a long time ago. He's in the now. This is in the now, and nothing else matters. And
this is an extreme scenario.
Exactly, and he's up against the wall constantly, and you get the feel for his psyche through basically his tenaciousness in his organization, the way that he lays everything out, and in the way that he keeps his sense of humor, which is probably one of the most important traits the guy has.
And it's throughout the book.
Who gives a shit about whether his mom spanked him or not? I mean.
Oh, someone might.
This is the guy's professional life at its best, and he's using every utilization he has to go from one stage gate to the next.
Do you think?
I think that's a great point. Okay. It's a great point that when people are in extreme situations, the human mind does have the ability to focus on the task at hand, push out outside stresses, and just work on solving problems one at a time. And
not many people can do that. By the way,
right? It does almost become robotic at times. I feel like, and it's a little too methodical.
Well, it says, it tells you that he's extremely disciplined.
Guys, this didn't take place over like 3 days, and when Crisis, it was 459 days. So at some point, he probably had some thoughts that were beyond solving a problem, and there was a lot of sitting around doing nothing, waiting. I'm just saying the author chose how to write this.
Not to show
that's
that.
Fine. Again,
I
clearly,
agree.
I mean, what did he miss on Earth? What his girlfriend, wife, family?
Wilk, I was just going to bring that up. That's a very important point to this. Is this character? We know almost nothing about his family life. We don't hear about. We barely hear about parents. He mentions
you hear about
times. He's got no.
Cubbies.
Hold on, Rick.
You hear about the Chicago Cubs.
Okay. But he doesn't have a girlfriend. I think that, or any kind of partner at all. And that's an interesting choice for the author to make.
You guys are right about that.
You can easily say, I have someone back home that's missing me, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever. And the author doesn't do that. And Dan, what did you think about that? Did you feel like that was something that was missing from the story to get an even better, stronger human connection? Or do you feel like how Rick does is that, look, this is what the guy had to focus on to get through it, and that's what the story's about, this guy getting through this problem. It's not about repairing some relationship with a family member or just about love or anything like that. It's more of a scientific plot. What do you think?
I actually think it was a purposeful way to write the plot. If you think about it, it's a pretty much a cliche, like someone is under this huge pressure, struggle, obstacle, and he has a family and child at home. I think you had to develop that part to make it good, but I think the author chose to develop him as an individual, that he's a very optimistic and calm person, and I think that's what he chose to develop to carry this story along. So I didn't really mind it too much. I kind of expected it just because it's a convention you see in almost all the movies, but I didn't. And it
gets cliche,
right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a story of man versus nature, not man versus man, not man even versus himself.
Right.
It's just him versus the elements, and that focuses the story a certain way. Rick, you look like you're ready to say something.
No, I'm just getting impressed by the way you speak. It's extemporaneous genius. So.
Okay. I had that written down.
Okay, great.
Well, I've in researching this, people
it's all about the money. It's all about the money, right?
This is a story of man versus nature, and I thought that was a very good point. That I read somewhere online.
Well, you played off of Dan's comment perfectly there, so.
It's very organic. Wilk appreciate that. Wilk appreciate that. So the other thing, and I'm going to go to you, Rick, is there is a lot of math in this story. I'll call it math, but it's science, math.
That's why it's all about psychology, because...
Rick, I have a question. Okay, so I'm going to throw this question to you. There's a lot of math, there's a lot of science in this book, And this is definitely a very hard science book, which is why I made it compared it to Jules Verne, because it kind of reminded me of when I was reading Jules Verne, and there was like those lists of all the different types of animals and stuff that were just like passing by the ship. And I found myself, when I was reading Jules Verne, gloss over that stuff sometimes, which I also found myself doing in this book a little bit. But I know that this was he painstakingly researched this, and it was pretty accurate, or very accurate.
Yeah, I agree.
So I wanted to know what you thought of all that, because you have an engineering background. You're probably more math minded than some.
And he uses the background knowledge he has.
Well, when you were reading this, Rick, you made a comment to me offline. I said, "What, you have a math background. How did you feel about this?" And you made a comment to me that you said some of this book to you read like a textbook engineering book, like from when you were going to school.
Right.
Is that how you felt?
Well, it was more like a big word problem, a very artistically written word problem that gave you full context and almost complete disclosure on how things sort of work generally, without getting into the fucking quantities of things. Okay, so yeah, he definitely did his research, and I'm extremely impressed. It's a crazy world, it really is, and that's why it has a lot to do with psychology. There's a lot there. I think engineers are very special, seriously. So they can basically adapt. Once they have the focus, they can adapt and just work something out. And it's not over until it's over. As an engineer, like it's horrible when something just sort of like pulled right out from under you, and you're sort of in the middle of it. You want to finish, and there's a real drive there, and it's kind of something that has to happen. It has got to happen while you go to school, while you sit in the classroom and try and work out problems. If you're not like that, then you can go away. You can fade away and do something else, and you'll probably be good at it. You're fine. I mean, the engineers who spend a lot of time on all these math problems and stuff in their childhood, it's because they just had that special sort of quality to them. Not a better quality, but it's certainly special. I'm not even saying that you should look up to this stuff, because going to Mars or going to outer space is completely useless. A lot of mechanical engineers, they design automobiles. Well, they're dirty and they're fucking loud, and we could probably have better lives without them. They also develop military weapons. They kill people, on purpose. That's what they're made for. You can go on and on.
And let's not.
There's no regard for humanity.
Let me get to you. Hold on, Wilk. Let me get to you. You're not a math guy like Rick. And so how did all this science and math hit you? Did you find it enjoyable? Did you find it got a little long-winded, or it was all just great? I mean, this guy is almost like MacGyver. The way he figures things out.
He's a botanist, and he's got a science background because he's an astronaut. But I looked at the book and the movie as just excellent examples of problem solving, which I love. I love to solve problems. I like logic. I like trying to looking at an impossible situation and thinking, well, how can we make this work? How can we make that happen? And I apply that both in my personal and professional life. It's a big part of what I do every day. That's what I liked. I'm not a scientist, but the attitude that the book.
Well, not after they took away your license.
Not after the incident, but I like the overall attitude the book projected. I loved just the whole idea that you can, solve a problem that's unsolvable, And again, it's kind of like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. He's always solving his problems. And kind of like Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan. He's stranded somewhere by himself. Yeah. A lot of themes.
There's no magic in it, though. The guy was completely in touch with all the instrumentation on all of the vessels that ever served his whole crew. So he was the fixer-upper. So he knew about everything that was at his disposal. There was no magic there. And this book could very well inspire like a real-time mission just like that. Just because it's so well worked out, and it's solid. It really is.
I did feel like it was almost magical the way he worked it through, even though I know it's just all straight science and you get into this science magic kind of thing. But it was, like I said, and I think the author was a fan of MacGyver, that it's just like, even though he's just working out problems, it's just a matter of doing this and that. And though it was speculative in some ways, maybe it's near speculation, like you were saying, Wilk, whereas it's in the near future as opposed to far out in the future. But it still did kind of have a magical quality to me, the way he was defeating the odds. Dan, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it was great that it's a story about man using reason and logic and nothing else really to go beyond what we know. I think just that concept in of itself is, I think, sorely needed today, especially with all the creationists and all the politicians talking about not believing in science. And I just think having that kind of thing in Hollywood is important to have. So I think I like that. I really appreciated the fact that it was strictly based on man using his noggin to get beyond what he was faced with.
And he balances that out with humor, which you guys have said, and references to pop culture. Throughout this book, he's the character stuck on Mars with 70s disco music and old TV reruns, and he balances the seriousness of the situation with occasional off-color jokes and stuff, or references to cheesy TV or music. Wilk, as a pop culture expert, did you find that he was extremely accurate with his pop culture references, as equally accurate as he was with his math and problem solving?
I don't know how to really answer that. What do you mean, like, specifically pop culture references? I mean,
did you believe the references, or did you feel they weren't organic, or did you feel they were inaccurate?
I think they added a little humor to it. Yeah, they seem pretty congruent with the overall story.
I mean, there were some references to Three's Company in there. I didn't fact check those. Was Mr. Roper in that episode? But I know his science was right.
Why would you fact check that?
So I figured that
I can't believe you even thought about fact checking his references to Three's Company.
Well,
I mean, there are so many more like facts that are just sort of like not even connected in his book.
This is
that
so
you should have fact checked.
Incredibly lame. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm trying. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Well, I guess, did you enjoy the humor of the book? Did you feel it was a good balance?
Yes, I've said many times that this is a very good book. Yes.
Well, we can just end on that then, unless anyone else has any other comments about the book.
I think Wilk has sold like about 30,000 copies with that comment right there.
He is a force. That is for sure. Yeah, I know one of the things I read that Weir said is he didn't want to have something like the character just gets struck by lightning and then have to deal with it. He wanted the problem. There's a lot of try-fail cycles in here. The character
he sets up every problem
situation,
too. Yeah.
And then something unforeseen complicates it, and he has to address that problem. Mm-hmm. And he just keeps ramping it up along the way. I mean, it does get more and more suspenseful and intense as you go through.
I think we're like beating this dead horse, though. We should be talking about like the managerial decisions that were made, back home too. Not just about problem solving, but it's also about politics and PR.
Yeah, and he did get into that about the PR for something like NASA and the ability to focus on things. Well, I mean, what did you want to get into about that?
Well, there was a human aspect in this, and it was just for the emotional and, it was for the well-being of Mark Watney. I mean, they toiled with the decision of letting his crew know that he was either dead or alive, and they finally painfully reached a decision. And there was a whole lot there that I think the priority it was given was almost that of the highest priority, which is safety. Okay, if the crew had found out that they had just left Mark Watney on Mars, they were worried that the crew would experience something fatal. Okay, now that's a powerful message to anybody, really, that your emotional and mental health is number one. It really is. I mean, you could know all the chemistry and mechanical engineering you can, but number one is that. It really is.
I had a little trouble believing that, how long that went on. It was a part of the plot where, the crew that left him there, they didn't even know that he was still alive. I felt it. The reason was that, like you just said, they couldn't tell him because they thought the crew would just be too upset. But I don't think, I had trouble believing that it would go on that long, that they would not tell the crew that he was alive.
Yeah, so they talked about that decision a lot, and then that guy Mitch, who was in the book, he wasn't really in the movie. Mitch was...
Sean Bean played him.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice him.
He didn't die, but he got fired. So, still kind of a Sean Bean role.
Oh, darn. I was totally blacked out when that happened. But
he was a pretty major part of the movie. Jeff Daniels said he
Okay.
was forced to resign at some point. Anyways.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone have anything else they want to talk about for the book?
Could he use more pictures?
I thought the NASA office scenes were pretty spectacular, and the book would have been total garbage without those scenes.
Without the perspective from Earth, and
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with Rick for once too. I think the book was set up to tell a story, and a big component was what people were doing, elsewhere, and how they were all working to bring him back. So.
Like you said, I think you were saying it's for the betterment of the story was about the betterment of mankind, not just Mark Watney's story alone.
Or is it?
Let's end on that. Okay, so this book is also about the movie The Martian, which was directed by Ridley Scott, starred Matt Damon in the lead role, also had Jeff Daniels and Sean Bean, who was in Game of Thrones and also in
Who's Sean Bean? Look him up. Show me his picture.
He dies and everything.
He
dies. He was Ned Stark in Game of Thrones.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Yeah,
just Google Sean Bean dying. There's these amazing YouTube clips of him dying.
Didn't he start in 007?
Yep, he died in that one too.
He was a 007 bad guy. Yeah.
It'd be a great montage of all your characters dying.
He dies more than the average man. I mean, he dies.
Yeah,
maybe not more than the average man, but he has some spectacular deaths, like the Black Plague.
Yeah.
You gotta watch that movie. It's great.
He dies in Lord of the Rings. He's Boromir.
I know.
Does he get doused with acid in any movie, kind of like that guy in RoboCop?
Probably.
I mean, that'd be the worst way to go. The worst way.
This was directed by Ridley Scott. Now, we previously covered Ridley Scott in our very, very first episode, actually even before Rick was part of the show. Back when He Who Shall Not Be Named was a co-host. We covered Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was written by Philip K. Dick, and was the movie Blade Runner. And Wilk, I remember, and I listened to it again. You had a lot to say about Mr. Scott. I don't know how much of it was actually about him, rather than just your opinion about him. But without kind of reiterating, that whole thing, and just give us a little bit of background about Mr. Scott before you unleash the next tirade against this knighted and very well known and respected director.
Well, I just learned recently that he was knighted, and that probably means he's British. So you got that going for you, Mr. Scott. Sir Scott.
That is correct.
Yeah, he's been around forever. He's in his mid to late 70s. He's made, he's kind of bookended his career here, where he's made some great movies early on and some great movies now, and a whole lot of crap in between.
I saw when he started, he made a couple movies, had some success, and then he went and did commercials for a number of years. I think he made over 2,000 commercials, and most famously, he made a Macintosh commercial, I think that was on...
Which, ironically, we're doing the book for that in 1984 next month. So we could actually do Ridley Scott 3 times, because that 1984 commercial was quite the iconic commercial, and it was really the first commercial of its kind. It was the first Super Bowl commercial, and started the whole trend of there being major commercials during the Super Bowl. But that's for 1984 and Apple.
Wait,
I know he said he got a lot of experience.
What was that in his career? I mean, was that something in the beginning?
No,
or
it was literally 1984 to help promote the Apple. I mean, really, Alien jump-started his career. I mean, he had one movie before that was, kind of well received, but not a big one.
The Duelist.
Alien was a masterpiece as far as films go. I didn't like Blade Runner as a film, so that's where we were last time. But I feel like Ridley Scott's kind of hit his pace with his last couple of movies. I just don't like anything he does where it takes place entirely on Earth. That's where he falls apart.
His Earthbound movies. I know that he's known in interviews. I heard him talking about this today, where he likes to always use multiple angles for his movies. He likes to just set up multiple cameras, and so then there's fewer takes for the actors, and I think he doesn't like to do a lot of rehearsals. He just sets up the cameras and has the actors run through it and just tapes it the whole time. He also said he realized in his career that when he works with good actors, to just let them kind of do their thing and make it more of a collaborative effort when he's making the movies.
I like that.
But I don't. Do you have anything else to add about Sir Ridley Scott? Wilk, I know he hasn't won. I'm going
to try and get a job.
He hasn't won any awards, actually, right? He's been nominated for some Academy Awards, but he's actually never won.
He's won about 1 billion awards, just not an Academy Award. Yeah,
just not an Academy Award. Yeah, he's very well known. So, do you have anything else to say about him?
No.
About his life?
No. Do you?
Okay.
Wait, what's his wife like? Do you know that? I mean,
he's been, I think, married a couple times.
A couple times? Okay, you got a couple wives. All right.
British.
So
that's expensive to have a couple of wives in Britain.
Yeah.
So he probably knows exactly.
Doesn't he live here and in England? He might also live in France too. All right, well then we can move on for Mr. Scott or Sir Scott, and we can get into the movie. Rick, why don't you just give us a little comparison of the book and movie, with the understanding that this movie is pretty faithful to the book. There's some things cut out of it, but for the most part, it hugs the plot line of the book.
Right. It cuts things out as a matter of economy because the book goes into so much detail. But the movie is rightfully so kind of like a 20,000-foot blueprint of the book. You know, it's really accurate. It's produced accurately. Visually,
I know Scott consulted with NASA. They consulted with NASA to
visually,
do this.
it looks real. The movie is pretty special. I get kind of annoyed with Matt Damon. I wish it were another character, a character that I can feel for. But Matt Damon is so extremely smart. He plays off the astronaut role extremely well. So he does a good job.
They made an interesting stylistic choice when they did this movie, because the book is all written in these log forms, but in the movie they set up GoPro cameras, I guess, all over the place, and they had the actor Matt Damon talking into cameras, doing almost like video logs, and that device worked just great. Great translation from the book. And Wilk, you were telling me offline, one of the differences is the way this starts. The movie starts with the whole crew.
Yeah, the movie is very linear. It starts with the incident that separates the astronaut from the rest of the crew, and in the book that doesn't happen until almost a quarter of the way through it. I think. I mean, there's
we don't. It's like it's all Watney in the beginning, right?
Yeah, kind of monologuing and talking about but then it kind of flashes back to how he got stuck there. So.
That's accurate.
I mean,
it's accurate with the book.
The movie created this just overall. I mean, I was kind of squirming. I was uncomfortable watching it because I was so tense. I didn't know what was going to happen, and in terms, I knew it was going to happen, but it just was like hard to watch when he pulled the thing out of his stomach, and I don't know. It really the tension that the movie created, I thought, was pretty masterful, and I loved everything about it. It was like a good version of Castaway, in my opinion.
Dan, it looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, actually, I was going to comment on the sequence change. You know, you had it opening up with this traumatic scene of him getting pierced by this antenna and his crew lamenting his death. I don't think it was as impactful as the book, just because you don't really get to develop the relationship between these characters in the first 15 minutes of the book. So you don't feel the emotional impact of him being dead and them taking off in the MAV or whatever that's called, the Hermes. And so I think that order reverse didn't help the movie. I really like the interaction that I felt was there when they were actually communicating later on in the movie. So I felt if we had a little bit of that interplay, a little bit of that relationship in the beginning, that first scene would have been more impactful. And that's, I think, like the big change in the book. It's just the order of scenes.
It's a very Ridley Scott styled beginning, with kind of like just visually a lot going on. It's dark, things are going on in the gloom, and you see the lights on the astronauts' helmets going on. I don't know. I felt it was pretty visceral and intense. I don't know. I guess I felt a little differently.
I wasn't crying.
You weren't crying?
I was not crying.
You can't cry on Mars.
I thought the casting was done, really well with the movie. And incidentally, I think didn't they discover?
I don't know. I disagree with that too.
Really?
I mean, obviously they're great actors, but they're all like in their 20s. Are you going to have a NASA astronaut in their 20s?
Matt Damon wasn't. He's not in his 20s.
Yeah,
he's like 40 something.
The Hispanic actor is actually in his mid 30s too, and I think you got to have to be a certain age. You got to have. I mean, it's 2 or 3 years. They want people who are not going to die, or the longer you are, the more prone you are to.
Glenn, whoever, he got into outer space, and he was, like 70 years old? I mean, they had to have an old codger on there, and they didn't, man. Just someone representing from that era, the real era, where they actually got on the moon.
They were in space for almost 5 years, though.
Yeah, still. Get that 70-year-old on board.
It is a long thing.
It takes 10 to 15 years.
Well,
it's interesting. Ridley Scott said he really liked the movie The Right Stuff, and also the author said he really liked the Apollo era missions. So he did want that kind of feel for it, but it sounds like what you guys are saying is it didn't have that.
didn't have nostalgia, but I mean, being in space itself is nostalgia for the past because it's happened such a long time ago, and it doesn't really look like it's going to happen again in the near future. So
Really?
there's quite a bit of that in all of the storytelling here, just because it's kind of an old topic and it hasn't been really looked at until now.
Ridley Scott was saying in an interview that they think they're going to try to go out to Mars in the 2020s.
They are, yeah. Well, and again, back to the age, though. Neil Armstrong was in his mid-30s when he went to space for the first time. He was under 40. He was 38 when he walked on the moon. Most astronauts are in the age range they showed in the movie. I think that was very realistic. And again, they were in space for 5 years. You don't want old codgers on there. I mean, that's great for a comic book, but I mean, it's in reality.
It's great for a movie. And this was
it's great for a movie.
You know what?
Yeah, sure.
What I was thinking about is Apollo. You know, with Tom Hanks and Gary Sinise, like these guys looked like they were weathered and they were like scientists, and you believed them. I had a hard time believing these young, pretty folk. That's just me.
Yeah, they were like too trendy for me too. I just didn't.
Well, but and astronauts are typically.
Let's be honest. We just couldn't believe a woman was in space in charge of anything, right, guys? I mean, she should be in the kitchen, huh? That's what we're trying to say.
Well, taking us back to 1950s era space travel.
But hey, no, I mean, I didn't look at them as pretty or trendy. They seem like they're the normal age of most astronauts. I mean, I think it was a touch of realism.
Yeah, there's really no culture in that scenario. There's no politics. When you're in outer space, there's none of that. You can't have it. You can't afford to do it. It's a waste of fucking time.
That's a good point. He did not spend a lot of time creating inner crew, drama.
Right. Yeah, there's no contemporary art in space, all right? There's just no fucking, economy for that. It's just, all of that has to go. It's all about sort of just being a worker bee. Really is. Really is.
Wilk, what was your favorite part about the movie?
I don't have one part. I just like...
Or one of your favorite.
Okay, I mean, I guess maybe when he shot into space in what he called a convertible, that was pretty awesome. And really the whole rescue sequence when he gets pulled into the spaceship, that was great. I mean, I like that better than the movie I like the movie better than the book, to be honest. And the book enhanced it, obviously, but I just thought it was a great movie. I mean, it was a very positive, yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Answer this question. I can't remember. In the movie, when he gets rescued in the space, the scene you're talking about, does he cut a hole in his suit and jettison towards the guy like Iron Man?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't remember. So in the book, he talks about doing that, but he doesn't. And he gets rescued differently.
Okay.
So in the movie, they did make it more dramatic. I couldn't remember that.
I thought he did the same thing in the book.
He probably did.
In the movie, he cut a hole in and used his own air to push himself forward.
Yeah,
he did.
Okay, he didn't do that in the book.
Oh, all right.
The guy just thrust into his craft and pulled him out.
So that wasn't in the book?
No, in the book, Mark Watney tells the commander, hey, because they're not sure if they're going to reach him, and he tells the commander, I can just puncture my suit and I can thrust out.
Ryan, just get off of this. I think you're wrong. He was thrusting to the craft with the pressurized suit. That's how he thrust to the craft in the book.
That's what I thought.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you should just sort of forget all of this. Forget all of it.
Well, I mean, I'll check it when we get offline. That's fine.
Check.
We don't have to talk about it. But that was you loved that scene, Wilk. Okay. Any you guys any other favorite scenes?
I like they cut it out, but there was an extended 12-minute scene with Matt Damon. That's been in the DVD.
Sounds like that's all we're going to have for tonight.
Well,
so, if anyone has any final comments, we'll go around the room and give our final star ratings. I'll start and say, I'm going to give this book 4 stars, and I'll give the movie 4 stars, too. 4 stars all around. Rick, what do you got to say?
Out of
5 stars, what are you going to do this time?
It's pretty close to 5. I should say 4.5 on both. Yeah.
On both? Wow, okay, all right.
Highest ratings for both of them, 5 stars or 4 stars, and the tagline should have been
5 out of 5.
In space, no one can hear you scream, but on Mars, no one can catch you masturbating. That's the movie I would have made.
Dan, out of 5 stars, how much would you give the book and movie?
The book, I would definitely give it a 4. Movie, I'm looking at a 3.5.
You go to hell! Sorry, Dan.
Wilk said this is the best movie he's seen in 10 years.
I'd say one of the best. So as far as science fiction goes...
I can't give this 5 stars. I can't give it 5 stars because there's no fucking art in it.
Exactly. I mean, It's a Hollywood flick.
There's absolutely no fucking
So
art.
did you guys want a Picasso hanging up in the spaceship?
It's
Is that
the
what
art.
made
It's
this
the
5
art
stars
of the
for you?
human survival. That's what it is. Art of human survival. That's all the art there is.
It was a very typical Hollywood flick. I mean, it was entertaining, but this is not by far the best movie I've ever
wasn't
seen.
typical. It was not typical. It was a Hollywood flick, but it was not typical in the sense that there was so much monologuing. There was one actor. There wasn't any romance really in there whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it was was it rated R? I don't know if it was it R?
I can't remember. They had all the cursing, I felt like.
They had a lot of cursing, but they might have dropped.
There's no violence, really.
No, but I mean, like Gravity came out a year ago. This is compared to Gravity quite a bit. I wouldn't call either one of these Hollywood flicks. I would call Castaway a Hollywood flick, where you got a little locket and I'm going to kill myself, and you're talking to the volleyball the whole time. But this was a whole different. I don't know. It worked. Matt Damon carried it. He did a good
Shot
job.
across the bow at Dan.
Well, I mean,
Dan, defend Castaway.
Well, I actually like Castaway better than this movie.
Wow.
I mean, Castaway developed a character to, the limit. I mean, you really felt this guy's
I could
pain.
do it.
Would you say they're just different movies?
Yeah,
they
I
are,
like
but
that.
I can
like
talk for 4 hours about everything I hate about Castaway.
I mean,
But
Watney was a
agree to
nice
disagree.
guy.
I mean,
He was funny. He drugged along. That's great. It's a fun movie, but I didn't really walk away thinking anything internally about
you got a good
the
point
struggle
there.
of being on Mars by yourself. Besides, you have to kind of pull through things step by step.
I don't want to talk down Dan. I'm just saying, Castaway, I thought was just too sappy. Why wouldn't you open the box? And just like, it was just so, I don't know, Tom Hanks talking to himself and growing the beard was just so fucking irritating. I don't know. That to me was a pure Hollywood claptrap nonsense.
I disagree with you, Wilk. I think Dan's got a point here. You need that emotion. There was hardly any of that in The Martian. He was an alien.
Well,
there's a key to that. Okay, there's a key to the title there. Okay, you're not in this world when you get to that kind of level as a human being.
I think you're all right. I think it was not a typical Hollywood movie, but I do think that I agree with Rick and Dan in that there was something missing a little bit with the emotions. I think the author tried to get into that a little bit, and he made some choices to purposely not focus on that, which made it a more original, which I liked. But by focusing more on the science and the survival of it, it did have a different tone to it, and I think it works. I think it works. I just think it is what it is.
Can I say one thing, though? The reason I felt this is an emotional movie for me, I had a lot of emotions watching it. I didn't feel they were being manipulated because it wasn't full of sappy, sentimental, spoon-fed stuff to tell me how I should feel. I think 5 different people could watch this movie and feel 5 different things because it's a blank slate in the sense that you're reacting to what you're seeing, and they're not telling you how to feel. And I think the 4 of us have all watched. The 4 of us all got different things out of the movie. I don't know what Ron got out of it because he's being kind of neutral, but I mean, I think Rick and Dan and I all kind of are saying different things about it.
Yeah, I like your points, though, Will. Go on.
No, that's all I'm saying. Because I feel like, again, the Castaway thing is like they want everyone to feel the same way. You watch Wonderful Life, they want you all to feel the same way. I think people can watch this movie and feel different ways because it allows you to react without manipulating how you should feel.
All right,
I agree with that.
Why do they want you to feel the same way in Castaway?
Because there's a fucking locket.
Yeah, because he's going crazy before your eyes.
And, he's waiting for
at one point, he's
for
like
Helen
a normal
Hunt,
person.
and he goes back home, and Helen Hunt's married to somebody else. And there's only one way to react to that. It's like, bitch. And then he goes to the crossroads, and he's got like the box. The fucking box. Like, I didn't open this. I didn't open this box for 5 years. Like, fuck you, open the box, dude. It drives me nuts.
Right.
That's
the lack of subjectivity in The Martian just as annoying as well. It's just as annoying.
It could be. Again, I'm saying people love Castaway. Yeah, that's fine. I don't like it.
Dan, well, let Dan respond.
I think it's the opposite. I think The Martian wants you to feel a certain way. They want you to feel that all of humanity came together to help this one guy. They want you to feel that you have to be positive to go forward and leave Mars. And I think that's what it felt like, where I felt Castaway was just this guy going through his emotions, and it is what it is. Obviously, it was formulaic Hollywood, but I think that was definitely more on the Martian side of them saying, humanity's great, and we all came together, and he worked through logic and reason, and we got this thing done. I think that was definitely in your face.
Good point. But here's the thing. In The Martian, would you have told the crew that he had died or not? That he had survived or not? What would you all have done? Would you have told the crew right away, and maybe they would freak out, turn around, try and rescue him when you don't want him to do that? How would you guys have handled the crew?
I would tell them right away. I wouldn't hesitate at all. The crew has got to be vetted for this kind of scenario, okay? And NASA does a great job being thorough and getting them through physical as well as psychological scenarios, and this is absolutely one of them.
Yeah,
They've got a lot of money to do this kind of stuff.
I already said I felt a little trouble believing that they would withhold that for so long.
I agree, because do you believe them meeting and saying we're going to do mutiny on NASA?
Yes.
That would never happen.
Why not?
Because NASA controls everything.
Okay, they what?
You know,
People have their lives to look after. They've got no choice but to basically keep on going, and
they wouldn't
at
have
least
turned
look
around.
like they're, at least look like they're trying.
So Dan, you felt
Yeah.
that was a little artificial that they were mutinying against NASA. You thought it felt contrived. Is that what you're saying?
Totally. I mean, if you think of like the practicalities, NASA controls the mission. They have no say over it. And if you think, 6 astronauts agreeing to go against, 80 years of NASA dictating what you do just because there's one guy that is alive, it just doesn't seem very realistic to me. I don't think it would happen.
It seems absolutely realistic because that's how military people act.
No,
they don't leave
realistic.
anyone behind. And what's NASA going to do? Send out the other giant spaceship after them? They're the only spaceship.
And the public is up in their ass with everything that goes on.
They're risking
And
their
it's a
whole
PR
lives.
stunt, too.
Dan, go ahead.
Everyone's
Dan,
risking their lives. Like, think about it. For 6 people to make a decision to risk their own lives, that's a huge barrier to meet. I just don't think it's going to happen.
But I think rescue people do that all the time. And
Yeah.
firemen or people watch Deadliest Catch or whatever when those guys are out in the icy seas and then a Coast Guard has to come in and rescue people and stuff and they risk. I mean that does
Right.
kind of happen.
But
all the
they
time.
don't have a government agency dictating every second of their lives.
Well,
These are all leaders and masters in their field. They had a colleague that was left behind. They're pissed at NASA for not telling them, and they were in the best position to rescue him. A great personal sacrifice themselves. NASA didn't want to risk them dying because that was likely to or failing. They wanted to come back and land because they were afraid that they went back to Mars and they failed, they'd lose funding. So their mutiny was basically a manipulation of NASA saying, we're going to go there anyways, what are you going to do? And NASA did nothing. So, I mean, both the motivations of the people seem the same. And again, I mean, if you think people with military backgrounds, they really stress.
But look.
Yeah.
NASA was going to do nothing at first just to cover their own ass. Okay, that is the other part of engineering. Okay, you need
well,
to cover
not
your
just
ass.
that though, Rick, but they also are saying, do we risk 6 lives for 1 life?
Right. Yeah, and NASA didn't want to give that order.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool that they decided amongst themselves to do it.
No, but they were thinking purely on how they looked first.
Who?
CYA,
Who
bitch.
was-
CYA.
Who are you talking about?
All the engineers at NASA. Come on, follow the conversation, right?
Jesus. Okay, let's wrap it up. We're over.
Oh, you're going to edit that
We're
out.
over time. You guys, do you have anything else you want to talk about? I mean, otherwise we're over time, I think.
Oh, are we recording this yet?
Like running joke.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just wrap things up there. We kind of gave our final comments. Dan, like I said in the beginning, I know you play music. You're in a band.
Yeah.
What's the name of your band?
The current name is Beautiful and the Just.
The Beautiful, or just Beautiful and the Just?
Just Beautiful and the Just. You can find us on Facebook.
You're on Facebook. Anywhere else? If people want to hear your music, where do they go find it?
Check us out on Facebook or SoundCloud, and you'll be good to go.
Just do a search. Just do a search for Beautiful and the Just.
Yeah.
And what kind of music is it? Would you describe?
It's I would say the general indie category. It's more on the melodic side.
We can guarantee you at least maybe 350 hits.
Is this how popular this cast is?
Oh, yeah.
We can send 2-3 listeners your way.
You got as many as 50 Cent on this?
Two or 3 listeners over to write hateful comments on your SoundCloud page.
I'm writing one now.
And they're all fucking voyeurs, too, because they don't, reciprocate with us. It's fucking bullshit.
Well, anyways, Dan is a great musician. He's been playing for a while, and people should go and check out his music. Go on to Facebook, go on to SoundCloud. Beautiful and the Just, if you enjoy indie music or you just want to, learn more about Dan and his music. So other than that, I will invite everyone to come check us out next month when we're going to cover 1984, written by George Orwell, and the movie version directed by Michael Radford, starring John Hurt. And I think we're going to have a guest on that episode too, show ally and theme composer John Doyle. a.k.a. Dole, so it'll be fun to invite him back and discuss this episode with us. And that's about it. We'll just invite everyone to like us on Facebook, to visit our website, www.nodeodorant.com. You can hear us on the web in various places, in TuneIn Radio, or, of course, on iTunes. We also put our shows up on YouTube for people to listen there. So other than that, I will have us all collectively say it in enthusiastic good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, fellow engineers.
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys. Thanks for
Thanks for
having
coming
me.
along.
Good night, Tony Stark.
Thanks, Dan.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseano'reilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
There's like a giant standing behind you.
Who's that? Who is that?
Okay.
She's on.
Someone's
the air.
communicating to Dan via sign language right now.
I don't know where I was at, but yeah. Anyway, so
Harry Potter,
actually,
and then space probes.
well, I'm going to preface it where I have to speak in a low voice. So
What? Come on, Dan. Just let it out.
all right,
Maybe close the door behind you or something. I don't know.
there is no door. That's the problem. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Or what if you put a blanket on a chair behind you or something to muffle you?
A blanket over me?
Yeah, make a fort. Make a fort out of blankets. That'll help.
When you
Hold on.
constantly
Hold
deal
on.
with math.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
We lost Dean. Hold on just for a second. Let's give him a second to come on. But what I was going to say, maybe I can just get my point out, is that there's a lot of math and science going on in here.
Your point's coming out very good.
There's a lot of math and science coming on.
This is like your show, Ryan.
Yeah, you never really stop talking the entire time.
Right.
Oh, wait till we hear the playback. I don't know that that's necessarily true. You guys
haven't
are both
said
talking
shit.
a lot, and I'm trying to orchestrate.
Wilk hasn't said
Well, you guys-
anything either.
Yeah,
Dan and you have talked most of the
you're doing a
time.
lot of filibustering.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you guys don't realize how much you've been talking over each other. Well, Rick,
Okay,
you
well,
really
the point is you're acknowledging that you're maybe filibustering a little bit, right? Why don't you kind of stop?
No, I just want to get my point out, and then I'll go to you guys
Okay.
like I always
I
do.
like to play off of you guys,
It's like-
and that's what you constantly do, Ryan. It's just like, let someone else do that, okay?
We are recording. We just have to edit this out. Just more work for me.
It's not really work.
Whatever.
It's a labor of love.
Not to you.
Not to you either.
Right.
Hey,
Oh,
you
man,
guys,
damn.
when I get my severance, I am definitely becoming a full-time podcaster with you, too. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's my plan too.
It'll be fucking great.
And that's when Rick was able to start podcasting full time, and things got serious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great.
I'm gonna go to you. I want to pose my question to you, Rick, and then let me pose my question to you, and then I'm gonna have you take off
Oh,
as soon as Dan comes back.
we need Dan back. I'm not gonna give you my fucking response until Dan gets back.
That's what I said. Can you not hear me? I feel like you can't hear me in the headsets.
I can hear you all right. I'm just ignoring you.
Oh, okay. As long as I know it's on purpose.
Deliberate bullshit. Well, bullshit is always deliberate. You know that, right? It's never on accident.
Actually,
It's
I
always
guess you guys-
deliberate. That's the
you
one
guys-
thing it has.
Felt like I was talking too much, but I felt like this show was going good. Maybe that's just because I was talking a lot. I felt like
It's Easter on.
no, I felt like it was flowing a lot more organically. We were all kind of flowing into the topics, and it got a little confusing because people were kind of talking over each other, and I tried to stop that.
This is going on forever. You want to hang out podcast?
Should we continue another night?
No, he said he's coming back online. He texted me.
It doesn't matter if we just shut it off right now. We can just pick up tomorrow at 5 a.m.
No, let's just finish it, man. Come on, it'll 5 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah,
I love
why
it.
not?
Yeah,
Disagree. I mean,
it'll be easier to talk if you do it now because Dan's offline.
Dan, you got a good point there.
What's that?
Dan, are you
Look,
offline?
if you talk now, Dan can't say anything back.
I don't want to talk down Dan. I'm just saying.
All right, so everyone just calm down, and then let's go to Audacity and hit the stop button.
Calm down first. Are you calm?
I'm a little tense.